What I'm curious about, and Danny, I'll ask you to start, and then Strobe, is to talk a little bit about how does this change the international climate as the world looks at the terror threat and tries to come to terms with some of the broader questions about how the international community, as an international community, deals with it. What's changed?
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having us. So I'm going to give you what I suspect may be a bit of a disappointing answer, and that is that I don't think that it's going to change the world. In the emotional wake of something like what happened in Paris, people come together. We all light up our buildings. I changed my nail polish, but it doesn't. I don't think that it has altered the fundamental calculus. And if you really want to look at what it is that we are thinking about doing, and when I say we, I mean the sort of the Western world, what you see is that the President of the United States gave a press conference yesterday morning in which he basically said, yeah, I think things are actually going okay, and I'm basically not going to change my strategy. He said it more attractively than that, but not much. Now, yes, we're looking at French airstrikes, and we're looking at an EU motion of unity for EU defense. None of us actually know what that means. It was interesting that Hollande did not go to NATO, for example. He went to the EU.
Well, not yet, at least.
That was a choice. I mean, we'll see, and that could happen. The only question, and I'm really looking forward to hearing what Strobe has to say on this because he knows so much about Russia, the only real question is whether this is a big opportunity for Russia, whether we're going to turn much more to the Russians, which has seemed to be a trend and which I think is a terrible idea, but you may not.
Strobe?
I'd say that there are 2.5 and maybe 3 ways, and with the half or the third having to do with Russia. For one thing, we didn't even know what ISIL or ISIS even existed, what it meant, as recently as 4 years ago. And when it began to assert itself, it was very much in its own neighborhood, unlike al-Qaeda, which of course struck at the United States in 9/11. ISIS is now going truly international. They are attacking a major capital of Western Europe. There were even claims yesterday that are dubious but can't be ruled out that ISIL will be trying to attack the United States. So that's number one. Second, there's the crisis facing Europe, which is actually multiple crises. And the tsunami of refugees coming from the Middle East, primarily from Syria, was already putting huge pressure on the establishments and the established governments of Europe. And now, and we can see it in the political dynamics of Europe, that crisis is going to be ratcheted up considerably. And I think it's really calling into question whether the European project, the European Union, is even going to survive. And certainly European statesmen are talking about that. And then coming to Danny's point, I can assure you that the Secretary of State, John Kerry, hopes that there will be a change in the both the substance and the consequences of the diplomacy that he's trying to do with his Russian counterpart, namely to convince the Russians that maybe they should recalculate whether their principal goal in Syria is to keep Assad in power rather than their principal goal being to, if possible, destroy ISIS, since it was, among other things, also very likely behind the downing of the Russian plane in Egypt.